Stoker's New Woman by Brittany Valamick. In 1894, the term New Woman was coined to describe the first wave of the women's rights movements throughout the world. 3 years later, an Irish writer, Bram Stoker, published Dracula, a horror novel about a vampire's plan to relocate to England and the humans whose mission is to stop him. In this novel, there are two female characters whose personalities put them in non-traditional women roles during the Victorian time period. This piece will take a closer look at the novel to show whether or not Mina Murray and Lucy Westenra can be perceived as representations of the New Woman movement through their actions, the things that they say, and the events that take place throughout the novel. Before the New Woman movement began, women's roles were primarily within the domestic sphere as dutiful wives who raised children, clean their homes, cook, and attend social events with their husbands. During the Victorian era, a woman was typically married once, and even if the marriage was a dangerous place for the woman, such as emotionally, physically, or sexually abusive situations, she was expected to continue her womanly duties. Divorce was seen as disgrace on the woman and on her family. Women were not typically accepted in the workforce except as school teachers, and, if married, a woman's assets would be given to her husband as she and her wages were considered his property at the time. Women were not allowed to own their own homes or land either. However, in the 1890s, the New Woman movement promoted the increase of a woman's individuality and independence. This movement allowed women to be properly educated and to work alongside men in the business world. Some women also began looking into the prospect of becoming doctors and lawyers. It also became economically acceptable for women to legally divorce their husbands, even though it was not socially acceptable. This change led to women being allowed to own their own wages, homes, and lands. Through these changes, we can see two different sides of the New Woman movement: the post-secondary and professional education, and the sexual and social expectations. In Bram Stoker's novel, we can see the two aspects of the New Woman movement being represented through the two main female characters: Mina Murray as the representation of the professional aspect, and Lucy Westenra as a representation of the social and sexual aspect. Mina Murray can be considered a representation of the educated and working woman. This half of the New Woman movement focuses on women becoming a part of the business world by their desire to study and work alongside men, and their desire to financially support themselves. Along with her full-time job working as an assistant school teacher, Mina is also trying to, quote, keep up with Jonathan's studies and has been practicing shorthand very assiduously, unquote. Stoker 53. These decisions show that she is independent and hardworking, and the fact that she has a full-time job shows that she can financially support herself at the beginning of the novel. We can also see Mina as a representation of the New Woman movement when she begins talking about the movement through her journal entries in the novel. She first mentions that the women of the movement would be shocked by how much her and Lucy ate during one of their tea times. This is important during the time frame because before the movement, women were expected to eat very little as to keep their figures. In another journal entry, she comes to the subject of the New Woman view of marriage. She says she has this to say. Some of the New Women writers will someday start the idea that men and women should be able to see each other sleep before proposing. The New Woman won't condescend in future to accept. She will do the proposing herself, and a nice job she will make of it too. There's some consolation in that. Stoker 85. This gives the idea that Mina is backing the ideals of the New Woman movement, and that she believes that women having the ability to request marriage on their own accord. But while Mina stands for financial independency and an intellectual figure of the New Women movement, her character lacks the sexual side of the movement. However, Stoker's other main female character, Lucy Westenra, is a representation of the changing beliefs in women's sexuality. The New Woman movement gave rise to women accepting their sexuality and being able to economically support themselves after divorce. It was also a movement towards women being able to decide who their marital and sexual partners would be Lucy, like her friend, is often considered innocent and vulnerable, but unlike Mina, she's also sexualized in the novel because of her voluptuous curves and because she exuberates a playfulness about her sexuality when she makes jokes like, quote, "Why can't they let a woman marry 3 men or as many as want her and save all this trouble?" Unquote. Stoker 57. But while we can see how these two women might represent the two different sides of the movement, we can also see how they are repressed in the novel due to the events that affect who they become. Lucy's transformation into a vampire and her decision to give in to the desire to drink blood dehumanizes her. Her soul and her humanity are lost because of her decision. This dehumanization changes the way the audience sees Lucy, and because she was an embodiment of the New Woman movement, it changes the audience's view of that as well. This could almost suggest that women who open up to their sexual authority could be damned the same way that Lucy's character is. We also see Mina being repressed back into traditional women's roles. While Mina was financially independent and on an equal intellectual level as the men in the novel at the beginning, her voice is taken from her in the end of the novel when Jonathan relates to the reader how his wife and him had a child and how the child only knows of the sweet woman that Mina is. Mina's independence is suppressed because of her acceptance into the motherly homemaker role that she takes on at the end of the piece. In conclusion, we can see how Lucy and Mina can be considered representations of the New Woman movement through their actions and through the things that they say. But we can also see how society has control and influence over these two women's lives and how it still ultimately influences them back into traditional women roles.